Joining us on the line is Jake Tapper with CNN, good friend of this program. Of course, he's the host of State of the Union and the lead on CNN. Jake, well, I guess we got to go right to the big story of the day, and that is what's going to happen on Capitol Hill. Beyond the events of yesterday, let's look forward. Everybody says that with Kevin McCarthy stepping down, that the guy who could unify the Republicans is this guy Paul Ryan, Ways and Means Committee chairman, former vice presidential candidate. And we just heard from a guy who says, I work for a guy who is a member of the Freedom Caucus, and I can tell you right now, Paul Ryan will have the same problem that Kevin McCarthy had. He will not be able to get 218 votes. So where are we?
It's a great question, and that does not surprise me because I have talked to members of the Freedom Caucus and queried them as to what their demands are and what their frustrations are, and it doesn't sound like it's the kind of thing that just a fresh face, quote unquote, could solve, to be completely honest. I mean, what they're asking for is more autonomy, more independence, more membership of the Freedom Caucus in what they perceive to be key committees, Ways and Means, Energy and Commerce, a member of the Freedom Caucus in leadership. They have a list of, for want of a better term, demands. And Paul Ryan is going to, I would guess, to have the same reluctance to meet those demands as Kevin McCarthy and John Boehner did before them. And look, I mean, just to be completely blunt, the Freedom Caucus members are individuals who are willing to and desirous in some cases of having a government shutdown or defaulting on the debt obligation because they believe in a radical or revolutionary approach to shaking things up in Washington. That is not the point of view of individuals who are, shall we call them, in the governing caucus, people like Paul Ryan and John Boehner and Kevin McCarthy. So whoever is going to be speaker is going to face all these same problems.
Can I just throw one other name out there? Because Trey Gowdy is also seen as somebody who could unify both sides. And I think probably, just from my judgment, Trey Gowdy probably has a better chance of doing that than would Paul Ryan. But we hear he also is not interested.
The thing is remember that the Freedom Caucus is a minority in the House Republican Caucus. I think they have 245 members of their 245 Republican House members. And the Freedom Caucus is, on a good day, 50, on a regular day, maybe 25 to 30. And most of them are with the governing caucus. Most of the members of the House Republican Caucus are, they would have voted for Kevin McCarthy. The question is, what are these 30 to 40 going to do? So I don't know where Gowdy would be on this type of situation when it comes to, do you force a government shutdown? Do you default on the debt obligations, et cetera? But the problem is that it almost seems like these two groups of Republicans, that there's a chasm between them that is unbridgeable, at least as of right now.
Jake, this is Jesse. Do you have any insight on any dark horses that might come out? We've heard names like Congressman Hen Sarling in Texas or Jim Jordan in Ohio, or how about Goodlatte in Virginia?
I mean, I've heard those names. I've heard Westmoreland. Tom Price, obviously, was running for leadership. Who knows? I mean, in this stage, people are floating all sorts of names. And remember, Jesse, you don't actually technically have to be a member of Congress to be Speaker of the House.
Yeah, we've been discussing that all morning.
If you want to throw your hat into the ring, I would appreciate if you could give me the scoop.
You know what, Jake, I'll do that.
She'd be the best-looking speaker we ever had. That's for darn sure.
Well, I thank you.
You're forgetting the days of Speaker Gingrich in that assertion.
He only says that because Larry's usually in here showing off his hairy legs, and I'm wearing a skirt, so he's happy.
Definitely an improvement from Larry.
Yeah, yes. There's no doubt about that. That goes without any other needed explanation. All right. So, I mean, I don't see this thing getting resolved, and in the meantime, I assume Boehner just stays where he is.
Yeah, I mean, Boehner stays where he is because he can't step down until there's a speaker to hand the gavel to.
Yeah.
Although he wants to leave, he wants to hit the links, as it were. but he'll stay there until there is a resolution to this. But look, I mean, this issue is the same issue playing out in the Republican presidential race, except it's almost more stark there, because there you have the three leaders in many polls: Trump, Carson, and Fiorina. None of whom has ever held elective office. You have them commanding a majority of the vote, according to polls, and then you have all these establishments, caucus members of the governing caucus, who are also running, the Jeb Bushes, John Kasich, and Chris Christie's of the world. And it's again, how do you bridge this chasm? How does the party unite between those who really want an outsider, those who want to shake things up, those who are fed up with the Republican leadership, versus those who want to be conservative but also want to govern within the bounds of what is considered acceptable? And I don't know how either of these movies end.
All right, changing topics quickly because we're about to run out of time here.
Oh, okay.
CNN is going to host the Democratic debate, the first one, and it's next week. Tell me a little bit about the preparations for that.
Well, Anderson's moderating. I'm just going to be doing the pregame and postgame. So I'm not really exactly sure how the preparations are going, because Anderson and his team are the ones doing it. But I will say that I'm glad I got to do the Republican debate, because there's a lot more willingness among those candidates to, illustrate and discuss the differences between them and the areas where they sharply disagree. Whereas the Democratic candidates so far have been very reluctant to point out differences, and I don't find that particularly helpful to voters, and I don't find it as fun and exciting and interesting to cover as a reporter.
And you're trimming it by an hour. I mean, CNN's trimming the debate by an hour compared to the Republican. Is that just because there aren't as many candidates?
Well, because there aren't 11.
What is it?
Yeah, I know.
It's 3.
We had 11. What do you want to do?
Yeah, you got to have the time.
Well, I'm looking forward to seeing Bernie Sanders go up against Hillary Clinton, because how much of a socialist is she, or how left is she? He's really going to challenge her.
Well, I think there'll be some issue differences. He's been pretty good at not going after her character, not talking about her in personal terms. But there, if Anderson does his job, which I'm sure he'll do a great job, he'll highlight some of the stark differences, and there are very stark differences. It's the liberal or progressive version of what we're seeing play out on the Republican side: outsiders versus insiders, people who want to shake things up versus people who are a little bit less revolutionary.
All right, Jake, always a pleasure. And again, thank you for joining us this morning on this very important day, a big story on Capitol Hill. We really appreciate your insight.
Thank you, Jake.
Thank you. Speaker Jesse, thank you.
Thank you.